So one of the common threads of pagan spiritual practice is a connection to the cycles of nature. Although pagan religions are incredibly diverse, a sense of connection to our beautiful planet is one of the few things that most of us share. This manifests in seasonal holidays that honor certain turning points in the year. Right now, we are about halfway between the summer solstice and the autumnal equinox. For many pre-Christian cultures, this time of year is one of harvesting and celebrating and honoring the abundance of the growing season. Can you feel it? The slight coolness in the air? We just made the turn here in Maryland. It'll pass and the hot days will come back. But this is the whisper of what is to come. And this is that moment where we go, oh, yes. The first harvest. The holidays associated with this time of year have a lot of different names. One of the most well-known names for this holiday is Lunasa. Lunasa is a Gaelic harvest festival that was observed throughout Ireland, Scotland, and the Isle of Man. The holiday takes its name from the god Lu, and it was historically celebrated with large gatherings that included ceremonies and athletic contests, feasting, matchmaking, and trading. Another holiday name for this time of year is Lammas, a word that comes from the Old English term for loaf mass. Lammas is an early Christian holiday where the first fruits of the harvest were blessed. This was accomplished by bringing a loaf of bread to the church, and sometimes there were processionals to local bakeries where those who worked there were offered a blessing. I would like to go on record as being pro-processionals to bakeries. I think that sounds fun. In the pre-Christian Scandinavian world, the entire month was named for the harvest. The first day would sometimes be celebrated by opening beer, specially brewed for the occasion. Harvest workers would come to work wearing their very best clothing out of respect for the sacred nature of the harvest. The main staple of a given region would be shown special respect, including holding silence as the first load was brought to a given farmstead. Additionally, the first and last sheaves of grain to be harvested had specific customs. The final sheaf would often be shaped into a human figure and decorated. We have a lingering tradition of corn dollies, which many of us have made over the years, and that descends from this practice. In Ecuador and Peru, the Inca holiday of Pachamama was and remains celebrated. In Andean culture, the earth is considered a deity, bringing prosperity through harvests and the bounty of nature. This festival honors Mother Earth, where, through offerings and rituals, all the well-being that she brings is reciprocated. These beautiful, varied historical practices inform the contemporary celebration of the first harvest today. In the coming moments, pagans from different traditions will share some of their harvest stories with you. At the end of each speaker's contribution, we invite you to sing hoof and horn with us. The lyrics will be projected on the screen. As we do so, shake your rattle and allow any thoughts or feelings you experience to become part of the sound of the corn kernels inside your rattle.
Old, broken down, hair matted and gray, clothes tattered, cloak black. The grain goddess Demeter wanders the earth, and where she steps, famine spreads. Ever since her daughter Persephone was abducted by the Lord of the Dead, taken to be his bride, Demeter has not stopped to rest. In her grief, she wanders and wanders, but she cannot wander forever. At last she comes to a city, Eleusis, and she sits by the well there, frozen, unmoving, lost in herself. 4 girls approach her, daughters of the king, and they say to her, "Old mother, why do you sit here out in the elements? A woman of your age, no person really should be out here in this heat, in these dark times without food. Come to our hearth, come home with us. You can be a nursemaid for our baby brother, the prince, and we will give you many rich blessings." And so Demeter agrees to come with them. They walk to the palace, and she trails behind them, several steps behind, unseeing of everything. When she comes to the palace, the women offer her food, a soft place to sleep, and words of comfort, but she does not hear them. She sits in her stool. She stares at the ground. She does not accept food or drink, so great is her grief, and she cannot see the way out. Until a young girl, Iambi, a servant, comes to her and whispers something naughty in her ear, a ridiculous joke that lightens her mood and makes her laugh for the first time in a long, long while. Iambi dances. Demeter dances. Slowly, slowly, she emerges back into the world of community, of care, of connection. And so Demeter stays with the people of Eleusis throughout the famine until her daughter Persephone comes home to her. And when the famine is over, her relationship with the Eleusinians continues through rituals, through offerings, and through the bounty of the earth that she blesses them with every year, the gift of grain. This story comes down to us from the Homeric hymn to Demeter, a religious text written around the 6th or perhaps the 7th century BCE in ancient Greece. This story is rich with metaphor and very, very representative of the lives of the real people of ancient Greece. In the Hellenic world, marriage was akin to death for many women. And so Demeter's pain and Persephone's pain is what everyday people felt. Girls and their mothers would be separated, with daughters sent to marry men far away from them, often twice their age, and the girls would be no older than 12 or 15. And so Demeter's mourning takes on the mourning of every woman who felt the powerlessness then. Child mortality was also very common at the time. And in many ways, the loss of Persephone can be read as the loss of a loved one, someone full of life and vibrance taken away to the deep, dark places of the earth, only able to return on special days, like for the ancient Greeks, the ancestors' festival of Gnesia, or for modern-day pagans, Samhain, or our ancestors' ritual here at Frederick Cups. Finally, famine was a very, very real threat for the people of the time, forcing them to band together and take care of each other with the incredible hospitality that we see the Eleusinians showing to Demeter and to each other. But what about us? We live in a society where women have rights that the ancient Greeks couldn't even have dreamed of. And where often surplus and waste are more of a problem than scarcity and famine. It's kind of appalling that with all that we produce, people still go hungry, reminding us of the power and the necessity of hospitality and giving of food in these times. What about us? I believe that in the times of darkness, the Homeric hymn to Demeter is still speaking. In our own grief and our own pain, we are connected to something eternal, the power of laughter and joy and service in dark times. What I love about this story is that it's not private contemplation or solitude that pulls Demeter from her grief, but community. A dirty joke of all things to lift her out of herself and into fellowship again. Joy is not a luxury. Joy is essential for our survival. And community, serving community, taking care of each other, it's not just for when we are at our best and full of vitality, when we feel that we have much to offer the world. No. Community and service are for when we are at our lowest. They can be our lifetime, or they can be our lifeline and drag us back out into the sun, just as Demeter stepped out to be with the people of Eleusis. And so the relationship continues, cycle after cycle, season after season. We are one. We partake in the bounty of the earth. People come and go. All things die, but life returns. And the thread of community runs through it all. Demeter, mother, giver of splendid gifts, on this your harvest season, please watch over our community. Kaide.
For those of us walking a non-theistic pagan path, the first harvest is a celebration of sacred interdependence. Not gifts from gods, but blessings from the soil, the sun, and the hands that labor. We honor the grain not through worship to a deity, but through gratitude to the land, to the creatures, to the people who rise each day and offer themselves to the turning of the earth. Divinity lives here too, in relationship between the land and body, between neighbor and harvest, between sweat and sustenance. When community gathers, we are part of a ritual older than words, a knowing that pulses through roots and through blood. I learned this on my grandparents' farm in Ohio, where summer turned me from city kid to farm kid, barefoot, dust-streaked, and a kitten in my arms, usually against its will. I grew up with stories of the community coming together to help rebuild my grandparents' barn after it burned down. And I watched as community would help the harvest. And they would gather to help bale the hay, appearing like magic. No group texts, no sign-ups, just showing up, bringing food, wrangling children, sorting vegetables, hauling bays. There was always a place at the table and a task to match the hands that offered. Summers were for carefree fun, riding four-wheelers and eating sun-warmed berries off the bush, but it was autumn that taught me reverence. When the air shifted, the wind carried new music. The summer song of crickets and frogs made way for the low calls of cattle and owls, each voice preparing as if the earth itself knew it was time. I knew summer was ending when we stopped pulling jars of preserved fruits and vegetables from the cellar and instead began cooking with fresh gifts from our neighbors. Cool, early fall evenings meant trips to visit those neighbors, riding beside Grandpa in his truck, down the lane to Chicken Annie and Chicken George's. And those weren't nicknames given by us children. That is who they were to everyone. I'd be barefoot still, kitten still in tow. And Chicken Annie would take Grandma's preserves into the house while Grandpa and Chicken George would lean against the truck bed and catch up. My kitten and I would wander down to the chickens, who'd sometimes leave me some eggs to gather, warm and perfect, cradled in the straw. Eggs safely in the truck, we'd continue on, visiting and gathering what was needed from each stop: the eggs, corn, milk. There is something holy in that kind of life, the sacred woven into the ordinary, the interdependence of people, plants, and time. An embodied theology where presence is prayer and work is worship. As a non-theistic pagan, this is what the first harvest means to me. Not just the fruit of the land, but the hands that plant, the hearts that feed, the webs that hold us all. A reminder that we were never meant to walk this earth alone. So today, as we honor the first harvest, may we also honor the ones who show up. May we offer our hands to the labor, our ears to the stories, and our hearts to each other.
I'm Ravenhawk. I go by that because my name is Heather, and I refuse to be Heather the Heathen. So, please indulge me. I'm going to be talking, obviously, about the heathen practices that I find valuable during this season, and honestly, in general, as we navigate the world. In Norse mythology, there are 3 deities associated with abundance in slightly different ways. Freyr, who was the god of prosperity and all of its associated values, and who was heavily worshipped during the pre-Christian period, and then 2 goddesses, Sif and Gefjon. Sif is the subject of a lot of debate, But the loose consensus is that she likely represents the actual grain of the field. Her defining characteristic is her beautiful, long, flowing golden hair. Through no fault of her own, Loki, this gets cut off, and skilled dwarven smiths are called upon to replace it with a wig or crown of flowing gold threads. It's really easy to see the parallels with a field of grain being harvested and regrowing each season through the labor of the people. Gefyun is associated with plowing, which is obviously another critically important part of any agricultural society. And I encourage you to look up her story. It's one of cleverness and resourcefulness, both of which are also highly prized in Norse society. But the main reason I bring these two up is that one of the only attestations we have of them comes from the account of a huge feast given for all of the gods by one of their own. You guys, nobody throws feasts like the Norse gods did. Rich gifts, rich food, drink, entertainment, excellent company. Celebrations were at the heart of their culture, and it's easy to see why. It's something that modern heathens also embrace as well. We love to celebrate through bloats or symbol, or just a hearty hail when we hear good news from each other. It's a practice that I would encourage you to adapt into your own lives. Celebrate the small stuff. We're trained to think that only the big things should be celebrated, but I don't know if you've noticed, things are a bit bleak out there right now. And that's just like the long, cold winter season in the north. Find ways to celebrate the things you think you shouldn't. Give yourself that permission. You got to a halfway point on a project? Celebrate. Kept to your reading goals for the week? Celebrate. You made that doctor's appointment you've been putting off for months because you hate phone calls? Celebrate. It doesn't have to be extravagant, but find something that feels celebratory to you and do it when you meet the smaller challenges in your daily life. Even if it's just calling a friend and giving and receiving congratulations in a sincere way. Celebrations reinforce social bonds, it creates momentum to finish the rest of a goal, and it gives us a boost of dopamine when we often most need it. So as we come together as a community after the service today, I challenge you to ask those around you, what is good in your life? How can we celebrate you today? Or share your own happiness with others and let them enjoy that with you. As the first harvest sustains our bodies, let these little mini harvests of joy sustain our hearts as we move into the dark season together.
Like some of the other speakers here, I grew up on a farm. None of the people I grew up around would have considered themselves pagan, quite the opposite. Most were very faithful Christians. But living with a high level of land connectedness, as we did, made everyone very in tune with the cycles of the seasons. If a crop needed to be harvested on a Sunday, then surely God wouldn't mind if the church got skipped. He controlled the weather, right? It was this part of growing up that eventually led me to becoming pagan. I remember the Augusts of my youth being a time of intense community. All of the neighboring farms in our area would help each other out, so someone was always coming over to help out, and we would readily return the favor. If we were lucky and the harvests were plentiful, it meant working from sunup to sundown, and sometimes into the night. We ate when we could, usually have an apple in one hand and a steering wheel of a tractor in the other. We did this in our own fields and the fields of our neighbors. It didn't matter who owned the land, all of the work needed to be done. There was also stress. Crops left in the field too long will rot and become inedible in a multitude of ways. Too much or not enough rain could ruin crops or make a field too muddy to work in. Animals could get injured in storms. Equipment failures at the wrong time could be disastrous. So again, the community came together. Ourselves and neighboring farms would pool all of our equipment into a small battalion of tractors ready to pull wagons, bale hay, mow fields, and move livestock. With all this cooperation came a level of hospitality that I feel like is exceedingly rare these days. Every visit to a neighbor involved things like snapping beans on the back porch while gossiping, or shucking corn while creating a plan for the week's work. Often you would hear things like, "Are you thirsty? Help yourself. You know where the refrigerator is. There seemed to be food available at every turn. If my family was sitting down to dinner and someone stopped by, they ate. Even if they said they didn't want to, they ate. As my late stepfather was fond of saying, the table just gets bigger. It wasn't uncommon to have a living room full of friends late into the night, talking, laughing, possibly drinking. Every tractor and truck would have a cooler full of soda, water, fruit, snacks. They were available for everyone. You didn't have to ask. Just don't stay there too long because we had work to do. Had to get done before dark. As technology moves us further from the land, we all still feel these seasonal shifts. They're part of us. I invite you to lean into that feeling. What are you doing to help your community? Can you make your table bigger for someone that needs it?
Like so much of our relationship to the world, the first harvest is many things. It is personal. It's the memory of picking sweet blackberries and shucking corn and helping to prepare the food of winter. It is the way we experience those same actions now, connecting again to the patterns that began when we were children. The first harvest is also spiritual. It's a sense of connection to the greater world and its changing seasons. It is an awareness of where we are in the seasonal cycle and how this moment was experienced by our human ancestors stretching back through the mists of time. The first harvest is religious. The story of this time of year is contained in myth cycles around the world. Folkloric practices remain despite the violent conversions of Christianity. These lingering threads remind us of the care with which our human ancestors observed this sacred time. They remind us of the care with which these traditions are being reborn in contemporary pagan practice. The first harvest is yours. Personal, spiritual, religious, or simply a date on the calendar, this day, like every day, belongs to you. Consider what the first harvest means for you personally.